Lots of people are asking, what's going to happen this coming November when we have our midterm elections? Well, a day is a long time in politics and things are uncertain, but still, one can look at the poll numbers, and not just at the headlines, but deep inside them, and get a sense of what's going on. The most remarkable thing about the polls is how stable they've been. Things really haven't budged since last November. The president is running in a fairly consistent margin, 41% approve, 53% disapprove. And that difference has been roughly within 1 point ever since November. The so-called generic ballot, which asks prospective voters which party they're going to vote for in the House in the upcoming November elections, has also been remarkably stable. Democrats have been at 42%, plus or minus 1 point. Republicans have been at 45%, plus or minus 2.5 points. In either case, that probably looks pretty good for the Republicans. Our view is that holds, the Republicans will gain about 24 seats. But the poll numbers also point out some very important things. Being disappointed or disapproving of President Biden doesn't necessarily guarantee people are going to vote Republican in November. If you just look at the numbers I just cited, Republicans are running 8 points behind the disapproval level. 53% disapprove of Biden, but only 45% say they're going to vote Republican as a result. On the other hand, the number of people who say they're going to vote for the Democrats is almost identical to Biden's approval level, 42 and 41%. That implies a number of things. First of all, the Democrat vote has probably bottomed out. If things stay as they are, Republicans will probably win, but it's going to depend on those 8% who disapprove of Biden but have yet to decide they're going to vote Republican. The odds are many of them will. The odds are that perhaps many of them will stay home. But how those voters break is going to determine whether the Republicans have a very good night in November or just an okay night. And if they happen to break for President Biden, the Democrats have a chance to hold on to the Congress. So we have to watch that group very carefully. Another issue that people have talked a lot about is so-called gerrymandering. Well, this has been going on since the start of the Republic. It's true in most countries as well. Someone has got to draw the election district lines. And in America, we've traditionally left it up to the state legislatures to do so, although recently the courts have gotten involved. Well, the expectation a few months ago was that redrawing district lines, gerrymandering if you will, would favor the Republicans. Republican states basically gained 5 congressional seats as a result of the Senate, and those would likely come from the Democrats. But experts who analyze the districts as they've actually been drawn now expect Democrats to add 12 seats from the gerrymandering process, 6 at the expense of Republican districts, and 6 at the expense of swing districts. Gerrymandering doesn't necessarily mean you win the district. What you do is you make your districts a little bit closer in order to get more of them. You spread your voters out. Well, in case there's a wave election, you've also narrowed the guarantee that your congressman will get reelected. So we'll have to wait until November to see how it actually plays out. But at least for now, it's pretty clear the Democrats have won the gerrymandering battle in the country. Now, there's still a lot to go, and most important is going to be the selection of who the candidate is. And both parties have their divisions. In the Democrats, it's between the progressive faction and the much more traditional moderate faction of the Democrats. In the Republicans, it's between fervent Trump supporters and more normal Republicans. Do you want to go to your base and try and maximize your own party's turnout, or do you want to go to the center? Generally, going to the center is on net helpful. It depends a little bit on the personality of the candidate. But that still lies ahead of us. So the truth is, we don't know who's going to win in November. As Leonid Brezhnev, that famous political philosopher, said, The trouble with free elections is you never know who's going to win.